During this tutorial, what I'm going to show you how to do is automate your DTS, or automate the process. So once the source and the target connections are configured, the DTS process can be automated. We talked about that earlier. And what we do is we create an integration process so that it runs based on our needs. Now, the integration process we're going to create in this tutorial is based on time. We need our DTS to run every hour. Now, this is the first time we're going to be going into the Scribe console. So let's go ahead and open up the console. And it's a desktop icon. So we just go ahead and click on that. And what happens is your console opens up. Now let me give you a real quick tour of what you're seeing here. The area that we're going to be working in here is the tree off of the Scribe console. So what you notice here is there's your integration service. And so you click on that and that expands your tree more. And we're going to go ahead and create our integration process. And the place that you create your integration process is the integration server folder. And you see the tools that you have available to you in that folder. Now to create an automated process, you go to the integration processes tool and you click on that. And what you'll notice will happen is the integration process menu will expand. Now there's a couple areas you want to focus in on. The first one is down here. These are all of the integration processes we've already created. So they'll be listed here for us should we need to go back in there and add or edit some additional information. Also, as we go along, what you'll notice at the top is your toolbar. So as you highlight or as you go through the process of adding a new automated process for a DTS, those buttons will activate and will go gray depending on the status that you're in when you create the integration process. So we need to go ahead and create our new integration process. So we'll click on the Add button. And what happens is the creating of the integration process is actually a wizard. So it actually walks you through the steps that you need to ensure that you create the integration process correctly. Now, some of these steps may be non-applicable and we don't need to fill out every area depending on the integration process we choose. So if you notice down here, you have 4 different options that you can choose for the processing type of event that you want to create for your integration process. You can go with a file, you can go with a query, or you can go with a queue. So what you want to do is go ahead and select the processing event you want to create. Ours happens to be time, which means that we then have to go through this wizard and establish all of those elements that will successfully run this at the time we need it to run. Now, a few other things you want to do on step 1. The first thing you want to do is let the system know what DTS file you're going to be using. And you do that by going down to the Select Process, DTS, triggered by the event, and you click on the Browse button. And it automatically brings you to the files that you can select. I'm just going to go ahead and select one that we've been using through other tutorials. And go ahead and click OK. And there you go. You've told the first step that you want it to be a time process event, and you've selected the file. Now, one thing I do want to point out very quickly is process name. Make sure that it's a name that you can easily identify and won't get confused with any other processes you've set up. The other thing I want to point out is collaboration. We will use default. So the next thing we're going to do is walk through the other steps. Now I'm going to point out the steps that are not applicable for the time, for the process that we need to do. So step 2, the pre-post processing commands, optional and it's not applicable here for our particular process. So we're going to go down to step 3 and we're going to activate that. And you'll notice that our wizard expands our new step, step 3, and it closes down step 1. So what we notice here is because we selected time as our process option, what we can do is we need to go in and set the time event settings. So we basically have to tell it when we want it to run. Run the DTS one time only, run the DTS you can either do it by minutes or hours, run the DTS every day, run every week on a selected day or days, and then run DTS every month on day 1, 2, 3, 15, 30, whatever it might be. So in our particular case, what we want to do is go ahead and run it. Remember we said we want to go ahead and automate this on an hourly basis. So we choose run DTS every 1 hour. So we can use the drop down arrow to select hours and minutes. We can use the up and down nudge arrows to move our numeric value. The next thing you need to do before you close out of this step is to tell it when do you want to start. Do you want to start today? Do you want to select a different part of the calendar? So you can select any day you want. So we'll go ahead and start this on the 23rd. And at what time on the 23rd do you want to start this process? You can highlight this and just free type in there, or you can use the nudge up and down arrows, whatever works best for you. As you continue down the steps, we'll go to step 4. And so what we want to do here is we want to make sure that we're determining what the activation is. So the first thing is that do we want to pause this or do we want to go ahead and run it? And then we want to go ahead and set our activation range. So we said we want this to run every hour, but do we want it to run for a 24-hour cycle, or do we only need it to run during normal business hours? So we can set that range and enable it to the time that we need to run it on as well. Logging, show on the execution log, absolutely we do want to do that. And then we're going to go ahead and let the default set for automatic or auto recovery. Next, we're going to go down to step 5, our last step, and all we're going to do here is determine how we want to be alerted related to this individual DTS. So never generates alerts, allow monitor to generate alerts for the integrated process, generate alerts on executions with errors, notify who, and you notice you have your drop-down list of who you can notify right now, the system admin and the DB administrator. I'm the DB administrator. Alert number, so what's that threshold? Alert description, you can let the default stay in there. And then if you want to go ahead and create a custom message based on that alert description. So it might be helpful, especially if you're not going to be the one who's monitoring this on a continuous basis, and go ahead and write in the alert message if you haven't done that already so that you have that available to you. Now, once you've gone through each one of the steps, you see how the wizard walks you through each one of the processes. All you simply do is decide either to cancel, meaning that wipe out each one of the steps and not activate it, or click finish. And we're going to choose finish. And when we do that, what we notice here is that our DTS is added to the system. And we can see it right here. And it's ready to go. Should we need to modify it, all we have to simply do is highlight it. And what we notice is that our other buttons ungray and become available for our use. And that's how easy it is to create an automated process for a DTS using the time feature.